Imagine this. You go to bed in one country and wake up in another. Same pillow, same street, same neighbor, but the paperwork says you're foreign. Now, imagine that change doesn't come with a welcome email. It comes with rumors, with lists, with fear, with the sound of footsteps at night. Here's the cruel punchline history tells with a straight face. In 1947, millions were told by borders drawn on a map that their homes had moved. Not they moved, their homes moved. 1947, a line is drawn, a world is broken. Tonight, we walk into one of the most explosive political decisions ever made, the Partition of India. A mass migration so large, it still bends the human imagination. Britannica estimates about 15 million people rushed across the new borders, and death estimates range from roughly 200,000 to 2 million. We're going deep into the rabbit hole, but don't worry, I'll leave breadcrumbs the whole way. The pressure cooker. 1. The empire is leaving, fast. The British Parliament passes the Indian Independence Act on July 18, 1947. That's the legal trigger creating two new dominions. What should have been a carefully staged exit became a sprint. You know, when someone says, "I'm leaving in 5 minutes," and then spends 40 looking for their keys. Yeah, history did the opposite. It said, "We're leaving in 5 weeks. Good luck with the subcontinent." But speed alone doesn't create disaster. Disaster needs tension, and the tension was already there. 2. The politics. One land, competing visions. On one side, the Indian National Congress argues, at least in principle, for a united India. On the other, the All India Muslim League pushes for a separate homeland, Pakistan. Their fear? Permanent minority status inside a Hindu-majority state. Britannica's overview sums it up clearly. Communal representation, deep mistrust, accelerating urgency. Front and center, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Jawaharlal Nehru, two visions of safety, sovereignty, and the future colliding. And as the political air heats up, the streets begin catching fire. 1946, the rehearsal for catastrophe. 1 year before partition, Direct Action Day in Calcutta. What begins as mass protests and a general strike spirals into riots. Scholarly estimates place the death toll in the thousands, and the violence doesn't stay local, it ripples outward. So, by 1947, the match is already lit. Partition doesn't invent fear, it weaponizes it. The line. Enter the mapmaker. This is where the story becomes almost absurd if it weren't so lethal. The borders are drawn by Cyril Radcliffe, chairing boundary commissions for Punjab and Bengal. Congress nominees on one side, League nominees on the other. Radcliffe in the middle as the final decider when agreement fails. And here's the part that still stuns historians. He had about 5 weeks to draw the borders. 5 weeks. That's not design two nations time. That's maybe I can repaint the living room time, if nobody interrupts and I don't lose the tape. Yeah, history did the opposite. It said, "We're leaving in 5 weeks. Good luck with the subcontinent." Here is another twist. The final border demarcations are announced August 17, 1947. 2 days after independence celebrations, so people celebrate freedom without yet knowing exactly where the border will cut. August 14th through 15th, independence. August 17th, the line. And that line, later called the Radcliffe Line, doesn't just split territory, it splits water systems, rail links, farms, markets. Human lives tied together like nerves. Shock factor. 6. The largest movement of people. About 15 million people rush across hastily drawn borders. Punjab becomes one of the epicenters. Violence, revenge cycles, minorities stranded on the wrong side. Protection is attempted. The Punjab boundary force, 55,000 strong. But even that cannot stop the atrocities. Forces are overwhelmed. Camps swell. Logistics collapse. This is the nightmare formula. A sudden political rupture. Rumors moving faster than facts. Old local grudges dressed up as identity, and protection arriving late, or not at all. 7. The trains. Roads fill, camps overflow, railways become arteries of escape, and in partition memory, trains become one of the most haunting symbols. People didn't just travel, they fled.
Hold on tight, everyone.
The human core. 8. Families split overnight. Let's zoom in, because statistics can numb the soul. Picture a Sikh family near Amritsar. Their cousin lives near Lahore. Yesterday, a day's travel. Today, a border. Guarded, suspicious, afraid. Or picture a Muslim artisan who's worked the same bazaar for 20 years, and suddenly the bazaar is the other side. Partition turns identity into a weapon, because it turns identity into a prediction. What will you do to me because of who you think I am? 9. Survival rules. Survival suddenly means learning new rules in days. Don't travel at night. Don't trust the wrong uniform. Don't say the wrong prayer at the wrong checkpoint. Don't carry the wrong name in your mouth. And the most valuable skill isn't strength anymore. It's knowing when to disappear from the conversation. History turns small talk into survival discipline. 10. Freedom and grief. Independence is declared. Leaders speak of freedom, but on the ground, the reality is grief. Then comes Nehru's famous midnight line, at the stroke of the midnight hour. One of history's sharpest ironies, a nation awakens to freedom and millions awaken to exile. Why it happened this way. 11. Speed, uncertainty, and power. Partition happens rapidly, borders hastily demarcated, populations rushing, violence erupting. Because when a state changes overnight, property becomes contestable, rumor becomes currency, and the question, who belongs, starts getting answered with force. And when the border is announced on August 17th, it lands like a verdict after the punishment has already begun. The echo. 12. Memory didn't end in 1947. Partition didn't end in 1947. It continued in refugee neighborhoods, in family silence, in politics, in borders that still bleed. Places like the Partition Museum, opened in 2016, exist because survivors carried this history in their bodies long before the world built shelves for it, and writers gave voice to what records couldn't hold. Sadat Hassan Manto, Making Madness Speak Truth. If you want one fictional doorway into the emotional physics of partition, train to Pakistan. Fiction, yes, but rooted in lived reality. So, what is partition at its deepest level? It's a warning about what happens when identities harden into armies, when bureaucracy outruns humanity, and when leaders treat borders like geometry instead of surgery. Because borders aren't just lines, they're decisions about who gets to feel safe. A line was drawn. People paid the price. If your family carries a partition story, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or the diaspora, share what you feel safe sharing in the comments. And if you want a follow-up episode, I can cover how partition still shapes politics today, or why borders drawn fast break for generations. I'll see you in the next story.